BP managers could face manslaughter charges over the blast at the Macondo well that started the Gulf oil spill last summer. Lizzie O'Leary has more on that story. Lizzie?
Well, Betty, what we're talking about here is the potential for manslaughter charges against BP managers, some of the folks who were responsible for the safety and maintenance of that Transocean rig before it blew. What folks are looking at, according to three people familiar with the matter, is whether or not those managers and the company sacrificed safety of those 11 men who were killed on board for time, money. That's been one of the questions that both investigators are looking at and that we've seen from the big probe into the spill by the government's oil spill commission. So that's what they're looking at. And the question of manslaughter is one that's quite important because up until now, a lot of the investigating has focused on what the company said after the spill, after the fact, how much they knew about the amount of oil that was leaking out into the water. But the question of manslaughter certainly marks a new chapter in this investigation that has been going on for quite some time, Betty.
And there's been a shift, right, Lizzie, in how the Justice Department is viewing this case. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and it depends on who is looking at this investigation. Remember, when Justice started this, the folks who were running it were from the Civil Division, the Environmental Crimes Division, and this is a shift into the Criminal Division. It puts more attorneys looking at this from a criminal standpoint, but it also gives us some potential clue into what the Justice Department is thinking. We know that they opened this criminal investigation when the Attorney General, Eric Holder, talked about it, but this could be a clue that we're no longer talking about fines and penalties under the Clean Water Act, but about something different and potentially more significant, Betty.
Lizzie, just finally, talk to us about the money. What kind of fines are we talking about here with this?
So we've been over this a couple of times, and it's really important to break out because the penalties vary. It could go from anywhere from $5 billion up to $20 billion, depending on negligence. And that's a very important term, gross or criminal negligence. Both of them are relevant. The fact that this is now under the auspices of the criminal part of the Justice Department, according to David Ullman, who used to run the Environmental Crimes Division, means that this is potentially something that comes with a higher price tag, closer to the fine that would go along with something approximating gross or criminal negligence. Remember, the negligence penalty is $4,300 per barrel. Under the Clean Water Act, it's $1,000 per barrel. So certainly a big change in how fines could be calculated, Betty.
Lizzie, thank you. Lizzie O'Leary in Washington.